Hi, I'm happy to be back reading one more story for you. And tonight's story is Here Comes Mr. Oliver. And this story is from this collected short stories of Ruskin Bond. We are almost through with this book, only a few stories remain at the end. This is one of those little stories at the end. It's not too small, okay. Here comes Mr. Oliver. Apart from being our scoutmaster, Mr. Oliver was also our maths teacher, a subject in which I had some difficulty in obtaining pass marks. Sometimes I scraped through, usually I got something like 20 or 30 out of 100. Failed again, Bond, Mr. Oliver would say. What will you do when you grow up? Become a scoutmaster, sir. Scoutmasters don't get paid. It's an honorary job. But you could become a cook. That would suit you. He hadn't forgotten our scout camp when I had been the camp's cook. If Mr. Oliver was in a good mood, he would give me grace marks, passing me by a mark or two. He wasn't a hard man, but he seldom smiled. He was very dark, thin, stooped from a distance. He looked like a question mark and balding. He was about 40, still a bachelor, and it was said that he had been unlucky in love. That the girl he was going to marry had jilted him at the last moment, had run away with a sailor while he was waiting at the church, ready for the wedding ceremony. No wonder he always had such a sorrowful look. Mr. Oliver did have one inseparable companion, a dachshund, a snappy little sausage of a dog who looked upon the human race and especially small boys with a certain disdain and frequent hostility. We called him Hitler. He was impervious to overtures of friendship, and if you tried to put or pat or stroke him, he would do his best to bite your fingers or your shin or ankle. However, he was devoted to Mr. Oliver and followed him everywhere except into the classroom. This our headmaster would not allow. You remember that old nursery rhyme? Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Well, we made up our own version of this rhyme, and I must confess to having had a hand in its composition. It went like this: Ollie had a little dog. It was never out of sight, and everywhere that Ollie met, and everyone that Ollie met, the dog was sure to bite. Oh, yes. He followed Miss Oliver about the school grounds. He followed him when he took a walk through the pines to the Brockhurst tennis courts. He followed him into the town and home again. Mr. Oliver had no other friend, no other companion. The dog slept at the foot of Mr. Oliver's bed. He did not sit at the breakfast table, but he had buttered toast for breakfast and soup and crackers for dinner. Mr. Oliver had to take his lunch in the dining hall with the staff and boys, but he had an arrangement with one of the bearers whereby a plate of dal, rice, and chapatis made its way to Mr. Oliver's quarters and his well fed pet. And then tragedy struck. Miss Oliver and Hitler were returning to school after their evening walk through the pines. It was dusk and the light was fading fast. Out of the shadows of the trees emerged a lean and hungry panther. It pounced on the hapless dog, flung him across the road, seized him between its powerful paws, and made off with its victim into the darkness of the forest. Oh, the panther took it away. Mr. Oliver, untouched, was frozen to immobility for at least a minute. Then he began calling for help. Some bystanders who had witnessed the incident began shouting too. Mr. Oliver ran into the forest, but there was no sign of dog or of panther. Mr. Oliver appeared to be a broken man. He went about his duties with a poker face, but we could all tell that he was grieving for his lost companion. In the classroom, he was listless, indifferent to whether or not we followed his calculations on the blackboard. In times of personal loss, the highest common factor made no sense. Highest common factor is a mathematical formula. It made so sense because of his personal loss. Mr. Oliver was not to be seen on his evening walk. He stayed in his room playing cards with himself. He played with his food, pushing most of it aside. There were no chapatis to send home. All he needs another pet, said Bimal. Wise in the ways of adults. Or a wife, said Tata, who thought on those lines. He's too old, over 40. A pet is best, I said. What about a parrot? You can't take a parrot for a walk, said Bimal. All he wants someone to walk beside him. A cat, maybe. Hitler hated cats. A cat would be an insult to Hitler's memory. He needs another dachshund. But there aren't any around here. Any dog will do. We'll ask Chipu to get him a pup. Chipu ran the, what's that shop? Tuck shop. Chipu ran the tuck shop. He lived in the Chota Sahib's bazaar, and occasionally we would ask him to bring us tops or marbles or comics or little things that we couldn't get in school. 5 of us, Boy Scouts, contributed a rupee each, and we gave Chipu 5 rupees and asked him to get us a pup. That's so nice. A good breed, we told him. He's not a mongrel. The next evening, Chipu turned up with a pup that seemed to be a combination of at least 5 different breeds. All good ones, no doubt. One ear lay flat, the other stood upright. It was spotted like a Dalmatian, but it had legs of a spaniel and the tail of a Pomeranian. It was quite fluffy and playful, and the tail wagged a lot, which was more than what Hitler's ever did. It's quite pretty, said Tata. Must be a female. He may not want a female, said Bimal. Let's give it a try, I said. During our play hour, before the bell rang for supper, we left the pup on the steps of Mr. Oliver's front door. Then we knocked and sped onto the hibiscus bushes that lined the pathway. Mr. Oliver opened the door. He looked down at the pup with an expressionless face. The pup began to paw at Miss Oliver's shoes. loosening one of his laces in the process. Away with you, muttered Mr. Oliver. Buzz off. And he pushed the pup away, gently but firmly. After a break of 10 minutes, we tried again, but the results were much the same. We now had a playful pup on our hands, and Chippu had gone home for the night. We would have to conceal it in the dormitory. At first, we hid it in Bimal's locker, but it began yapping and struggling to get out. Tata took it into the shower room, but it wouldn't stay there either. It began running around the dormitory, playing with the socks and shoes, slippers, and anything else it could get hold of. That's interesting. Watch out, he's one of the boys. Here is Ma Fisher. Oh, here is Mrs. Ma Fisher. Mrs. Fisher, the headmaster's wife, was on the nightly rounds, checking to make sure that we were all in bed and not up to some nocturnal mischief. I grabbed the pup and hid it under my blankets. It was quiet there, happy to nibble at my toes. When Mrs. Fisher had gone, I let the pup loose again, and for the rest of the night, it had the freedom of the dormitory. At the crack of dawn, before first light, Bimal and I sped out of the dormitory in our pajamas, taking the pup with us. We banged hard at Miss Oliver's door and kept knocking until we heard footsteps approaching. As soon as the door opened, just as soon as the door opened, just a bit, for Mr. Oliver, being a cautious man, did not open it all at once. We pushed the pup inside and ran for our lives. Mr. Oliver came to class as usual, but there was no pup with him. 3 or 4 days passed, and still no sign of the pup. Had he passed it on to someone else, or simply let it wander off on its own? Here comes Ollie, called Bimal, from our vantage point near the school bell. Mr. Oliver was setting out for his evening walk. He was carrying a stout walnut wood walking stick to keep panthers at bay, no doubt. He looked neither left nor right, and he noticed, and if he noticed us watching him, he gave no sign of it. But then, scurrying behind him came the pup. The creature of many good breeds was accompanying Mr. Oliver on his walk. It had been well brushed and was wearing a bright red collar. Mr. Oliver, like Mr. Oliver, it took no notice of us, but scampered along beside his new master. Mr. Oliver and the pup were soon inseparable companions, and my friends and I were quite pleased with ourselves. Mr. Oliver gave absolutely no indication that he knew where the pup had come from. But when the end of the when the end of term exams were over, and Bimal and I were sure we had failed our maths paper, we were surprised to find that we had passed after all with grace marks. Good old Ollie, said Bimal. So he knew all the time. Tata, of course, did not need grace marks. He was a whiz kid at maths, but Bimal and I decided we would thank Mr. Oliver for his kindness. Nothing to thank me for, said Mr. Oliver brusquely. I have seen enough of you two in junior school. It's high time you went up to the senior school, and God help you there. Poor kids. That was nice. Well, that was a little story. It was interesting. Should I read one more?